Dae-soo is holding a necktie that dangles another man precariously off the edge of a building. The dangling man wants to know who he is, but Dae-soo demands that the man listen to his story. The scene then shifts back to 1988. Dae-soo finds himself drunk and disorderly at a police station. His erratic behavior includes annoying other detainees by flaunting the angel's wings he bought for his daughter. Eventually, his old friend Ju-hwan arrives to bail him out. Still drunk, Dae-soo calls his daughter from a pay phone to tell her what he bought for her birthday and that he will be home soon. Ju-hwan takes the phone to wish Dae-soo's daughter for her birthday, but when he turns around to return the phone, he is nowhere to be found. A guy comes and opens a small hatch with his foot. Dae-soo asks him the reason why he has been locked up. The person says nothing but gets a tray of food and leaves it. Despite Dae-soo's pleas to know how long he will be imprisoned, the guy pushes him inside and latches the hatch. Inside the room that resembles a rundown hotel room, Dae-soo lashes out in frustration. He has been imprisoned in the room for 2 months without any information about his captors or their motives. He is gassed into unconsciousness when his captors need to access the room, for maintenance or to groom him. His only connection to the outside world is through the television, and it becomes his only companion. One day, he learns of his wife's murder, his daughter's placement with foster parents, and the shocking revelation that he is the prime suspect. His captors have planted evidence at the crime scene and taken samples from him, making it appear as though he is responsible for the crimes. All these drive Dae-soo to the brink of madness and induce violent hallucinations, attempting suicide. Desperate to maintain his sanity and uncover the identity of his captor, Dae-soo fills several notebooks with a detailed autobiography and diary, listing everyone he might have wronged or tormented. He also realizes that he has sinned so much, though he always thought he lived an average life. One day, he discovers an extra metal chopstick hidden in a delivery of fried dumplings. He thinks to himself that the poor guy next door will be eating with just one chopstick today. He begins to tattoo lines on his arm to mark each year of his imprisonment and disciplines himself with a rigorous training regimen in the hope of facing his captors one day. He uses the hidden metal chopsticks to gradually dig a hole in the wall of his room. It is more than a decade in captivity. Dae-soo continues to train, keeps up with current events, and meticulously works on loosening bricks. Finally, he can feel the rain with his hands. He estimates that he needs 1 more month to make the hole large enough to escape. Dae-soo is gassed once more while still lost in thoughts, and when he regains consciousness, a woman is performing hypnosis on him. Then there's a red suitcase and Dae-soo gets out of it, dressed in a suit, with a watch and his diaries. Turns out he is on top of a building. Struggling to adjust to the bright afternoon light, he spots another man sitting on the building's edge with his small dog. This is the first person Dae-soo has encountered in 15 years, and he is initially too stunned to engage in a proper conversation. The man, contemplating suicide, tells Dae-soo, "Even though I'm no better than a beast, don't I have the right to live?" He then makes a move to jump, but Dae-soo grabs his necktie, pulling him back from the edge. Dae-soo tells the man to die a little later and listen to his story first. After sharing his story, Dae-soo walks away from the building, disregarding the man's plea to listen to his story. As Dae-soo exits, he hears a thud and turns to see the man and his dog have fallen onto a car below. Dae-soo pauses, then a wide smile spreads across his face. As Dae-soo roams the city streets, he's at a loss for how to handle his newfound freedom. He avoids contacting his relatives and friends, especially with his captors framing him for his wife's murder. As he looks down a bridge, he sees some young guys. He goes there and takes a cigarette from one of them. When they retaliate, he relies on his decade of solitary training and successfully fends them off using only his fists. Later, Dae-soo is checking out an aquarium when a homeless man approaches him, handing over a wallet full of cash and a cell phone. He tells Dae-soo not to ask him anything as he knows nothing. Dae-soo then goes to a sushi bar and asks Mi-do to give him something alive to eat. She looks at him and says he looks familiar, but he says it's his first time here. Dae-soo recognizes her from a cooking show he used to watch during his captivity. An unknown caller contacts him on the cell phone he was given earlier, claiming to be his captor. Dae-soo asks him who he is and recites a number of names, but the caller says he is none of them, making Dae-soo lose his cool. The caller reveals that he is a kind of scholar and Dae-soo is his major. He further adds that it does not matter who he is, but the important thing is why. He tells Dae-soo to think over and review his whole life. Before hanging up, he says he misses him and to come find him. Still clueless, he chows down a whole octopus alive as Mi-do watches in awe, but he passes out on the table while eating. Later, Mi-do reads his diary and sheds tears asking him if it's true as Dae-soo wakes up. He frantically takes his diaries back. Mi-do takes a knife and tells him the bathroom lock is broken and not to try anything weird. Dae-soo experiences a moment of weakness and tries to sexually assault Mi-do inside the bathroom. She fends him off but understands he did it out of desperation. Mi-do assures Dae-soo that she brought him home because she likes him too. She says she will get intimate with him when she feels it is the right time and she will give the signal by singing a song. Later, Mi-do pretends to be a reporter and investigates Dae-soo's daughter. She discovers that his daughter has been adopted by a doctor couple in Sweden, but he decides to contact her only after he kills his captor. Over the next few days, Dae-soo and Mi-do visit every possible restaurant that serves fried dumplings to find out the exact dumplings he ate for 15 years when he was in captivity. One day, at Mi-do's place, he finds out that she has been chatting online with someone known as Evergreen. When Dae-soo wants to know who he is, the guy asks him how life is in the bigger prison and goes offline. Mi-do tells him that she does not know him and he is someone she chats with sometimes. Dae-soo takes a hammer from the cupboard, tells Mi-do that he cannot trust her, and leaves. He finally finds the restaurant whose dumplings he ate while he was in captivity and quickly follows the delivery boy to the building. He finishes the guard and restrains the prison's manager, Mr. Park. In an attempt to extract information from Mr. Park, he tortures him by extracting his teeth with a claw hammer. The manager then directs him to a series of tape recordings, one of which is labeled with Dae-soo's name. As Dae-soo exits the prison, he is confronted by the guards. Using only his claw hammer and his bare fists, he manages to fend off the attackers, though he suffers a stab wound to the back. Severely injured and covered in blood, Dae-soo collapses on the road. He is assisted by a passerby who helps him into a taxi. The man then directs the taxi to Mi-do's address, revealing himself as Dae-soo's captor. In his weakened state, Dae-soo is unable to confront or stop him. Dae-soo wakes up in Mi-do house with his wounds tended. From the recording, Dae-soo learns that the facility operates as a private prison for individuals who wish to have someone forcibly confined. His captor had arranged for Dae-soo's imprisonment to last 15 years and had even recommended specific drugs to manage his sanity, should he begin to lose it. The only justification provided by the captor for the lengthy captivity is that Dae-soo talks too much. Later, Dae-soo goes to his old friend Ju-hwan's internet cafe. Overwhelmed, he hugs Dae-soo and breaks down. Dae-soo makes him listen to the tape, but Ju-hwan is unable to identify the voice. But he manages to trace Mi-do's online chat friend, Evergreen. They start a conversation, during which Evergreen taunts Dae-soo. Ju-hwan also tells him that he should look for the perpetrator among those who were close to him. In a grand apartment, the captor has Dae-soo's picture and continues to talk cryptically. Back at Mi-do's apartment, her hands are tight and Dae-soo, convinced that she is involved with Evergreen, aggressively demands more information from her. Just then, Ju-hwan calls and informs him that he has tracked down Evergreen's user ID and address. As he writes down the address, Dae-soo realizes that it is the apartment right across to Mi-do's. Dae-soo rushes to the address, and as he enters the place he comes face to face with his captor, Woo-jin aka Evergreen, along with his bodyguard, Mr. Han. Woo-jin then presents Dae-soo with a grim ultimatum. He has 5 days to discover who he is and why he was imprisoned. If he fails, Mi-do will die on the 6th day. He threatens to kill every woman that Dae-soo ever loved. Dae-soo attacks him, but Woo-jin informs Dae-soo that he cannot kill him, as doing so would prevent him from learning the reason for his imprisonment. He also warns that if Dae-soo resorts to torture, he will remotely deactivate the pacemaker he has in his chest. Before leaving, he tells Dae-soo that seeking revenge is the best cure for the ones that were hurt and he should try it too. He also casually notes that Dae-soo left his front door open for too long with Mi-do tied up. Dae-soo races home and finds that Mr. Park and his gang of thugs have captured and roughed up Mi-do. The goon holds Dae-soo on his knees as Mr. Park is about to inflict the same tooth-pulling torture on him. He gets a call from Woo-jin. After a moment, Mr. Han arrives with a suitcase full of money and offers the money to Mr. Park in exchange for leaving without hurting Dae-soo. Park accepts the money and departs, but not before Dae-soo threatens to sever Park's hand for touching Mi-do. Afterward, Dae-soo and Mi-do leave the apartment to a motel. In the car, Mi-do expresses her readiness to be intimate by singing a song. Meanwhile, Woo-jin is getting checked by his doctor when Mr. Han arrives and updates him about Dae-soo's whereabouts. Woo-jin asks Mr. Han if Mi-do has really fallen in love with Dae-soo. After checking into a motel, Dae-soo and Mi-do get intimate, and when they are asleep, they are gassed unconscious with Woo-jin standing and smiling as he watches them. When they are awake, they find a package on the table. Mr. Park's severed hand. Dae-soo realizes that Woo-jin must have bugged them, as there is no other way for Woo-jin to know their location and that he threatened to cut off Mr. Park's hand. They visit a shop where they have a wire removed from Dae-soo's shoe. Later, at Ju-hwan's cafe, with Mi-do's assistance, Dae-soo uncovers that Evergreen refers to the name of their batchmate from his old high school. They immediately visit the school, and he learns that Woo-jin was a former classmate. Dae-soo contacts his friend Ju-hwan and asks about Woo-jin, but he says he does not remember the name. Then he asks about a girl named Lee Sua, to which Ju-hwan verifies that the girl committed suicide after Dae-soo got transferred to another school by jumping off a dam. When Dae-soo inquires what she was like, Ju-hwan replies that she was known for her immoral behavior. Wu Jin, who has been eavesdropping all this while from the same cafe, stabs Ju Huan to death and informs Dae-soo that Sua was his sister and she died because of him. Enraged over the death of his friend, Dae-soo decides to track Wu Jin down and meets Mr. Park. Now missing a hand due to Wu Jin's retribution, Park is more cooperative and agrees to help by securing Mi-do in Dae-soo's former prison facility for her safety. He tells Park to release Mi-do if he does not return on July 6th. Park also reveals that Dae-soo was drugged and hypnotized multiple times during his captivity. Dae-soo then reconnects with another old classmate to discuss Wu Jin and his sister. She tells him that Sua was not immoral, but she was in love with someone and there was a rumor of her being pregnant. After a call to a friend, she further adds that his friend Ju Huan spread the rumor in school and that Dae-soo should know better. Right then, someone enters the door and he has a flashback of what happened. Dae-soo is getting transferred to the city, so he is at school writing a farewell note to his classmates. Suddenly, he sees Wu Jin running with a camera in his hand. Curious, he follows him and peeps through a broken window as Wu Jin clicks pictures of Sua. He then gets intimate with her, who is his sister. He runs away when they notice him but ends up telling about it to Ju Huan. This realization leads him to understand that Wu Jin holds him responsible for his sister's death. He tells Mi-do that he has to finish this and goes in search of Wu Jin. Dae-soo finds the building, and while he is trying to figure out which floor he has to go to, Wu Jin and Mr. Han board the elevator. He accuses Wu Jin of orchestrating a search for a memory that was erased through hypnosis. However, Wu Jin denies any tampering with Dae-soo's memories, asserting that Dae-soo simply forgot the details because he considered them insignificant. However, his rumor grew out of proportion, to the point where people started saying Sua was pregnant. The rumor consumed Sua, and fearing public humiliation, she killed herself. Dae-soo, however, implies that Wu Jin killed his own sister, afraid of fathering her child, and tried to shift the blame to him. Dae-soo shows a photo of Sua on the dam, dated the day of her death, July 5th, which proves that Wu Jin was present at the scene. But Wu Jin simply laughs and changes the topic, narrating how Dae-soo and Mi-do are both hypnotized and made to fall in love with each other. He says that Dae-soo has been asking the wrong question all this while. The question is not why he was locked up for 15 years, but rather why he is released after 15 years of captivity. Then he directs Dae-soo to a gift box that contains a photo album. As Dae-soo flips through it, he is horrified to find out that Mi-do is his own daughter. Enraged, he tries to attack Wu Jin but is intercepted by Mr. Han. A fight ensues between them, but Dae-soo manages to stab Mr. Han's ear with a pair of scissors. Mr. Han still manages to fight, but Wu Jin kills him. Dae-soo asks Wu Jin if he has told Mi-do about this. Wu Jin reveals that Mr. Park still works for him and he has been granted ownership of the prison building in exchange for sacrificing his hand. Mr. Park is now with Mi-do, and under Wu Jin's orders, he is tasked with delivering a similar album to her. Mr. Park gets a call and hands over the phone to Mi-do. Dae-soo tells Mi-do not to open the box at any cost. Broken and defeated, Dae-soo pleads with Wu Jin not to tell Mi-do as she is innocent and all the fault is his. In his desperation, he drops to his hands and knees and begins to bark like a dog. He eventually cuts off his own tongue so that he will never talk again and gives the phone to Wu Jin. He calls Mr. Park and tells him to leave the box closed. Then he tells Dae-soo what joy will he live for now and points the gun at his head but retreats. He gives him the pacemaker remote, which Dae-soo quickly grabs as Wu Jin walks away. He pushes the button in an attempt to kill Wu Jin but instead activates a tape recorder playing a recorded audio of Dae-soo's and Mi-do's lovemaking. Wu Jin tells Dae-soo that he and his sister loved each other knowing everything. Can he do the same? In the elevator, Wu Jin breaks down as he remembers how he tried to save his sister, but she insisted on letting her go. She clicks a picture from the camera hanging on his neck and tells him to remember her and that she regrets nothing about them. As the elevator opens, Wu Jin shoots and kills himself. In an epilogue, Dae-soo writes a letter and seeks the help of the same hypnotist who was hired by Wu Jin. He asks her to help him forget the painful ordeal. Initially reluctant, the hypnotist is moved by the final line of his letter. Even though I'm no more than a beast, don't I have the right to live? The hypnotist guides Dae-soo into a hypnotic state, asking him to envision himself back in Wu Jin's penthouse. Through this process, she divides him into two distinct personalities: the beast, who retains the dark secret, and the ignorant Dae-soo, who is unaware of it. As the hypnotist instructs Dae-soo to separate into these two personas, his reflection appears in the window. She informs him that the beast will walk away, aging a year with each step and ultimately dying when he reaches 70. Meanwhile, the ignorant Dae-soo, visible in the glass, mourns the profound loss of a crucial part of his life. The camera then cuts to a cassette player, which plays the final notes of the background music. When Dae-soo awakens, the hypnotist has departed, leaving him alone and disoriented in the cold snow. Stumbling through his confusion, he eventually finds Mi-do. They share a tender embrace, and Mi-do softly professes her love for him. As Dae-soo smiles widely, his expression gradually shifts into a tortured grimace, revealing the deep anguish beneath his relief.